It's our National Signing Day special. Find out who put the pen to paper to join the Longhorns. Plus, we hear from our very own recruiting analyst. All this and much more up ahead on College Press Box. Good evening, everybody, and welcome into the only live sports show here on the 40 Acres. It's our College Press Box Signing Day special. I'm your host, Reese Miller. Joining me at the desk is the man who has not left message boards in well over a month. It's Harry Hoffman. Harry, what a special day it was. And we currently know that football on the 40 Acres is way more fun in February than it has been in November or October recently. But what a day in general, and what are your first impressions of this class and the way Charlie Strong was able to close out today?
I mean, Reese, it was unbelievable. I don't think any of us saw a day like this coming throughout the season, finishing 5-7, to land 7 on National Signing Day and 9 in a span of 24 hours. We had 2 on Tuesday night. Is truly remarkable for Charlie Strong and this staff. They started hot this morning with Marcel Southall committing, and then the dominoes just kept falling. And I think one of the big pieces to this class was Brandon Jones, safety from Texas, East Texas. He was deciding between Texas, Texas A&M, and Baylor. He was a guy who seemed to be a little more quiet late in the process. Nobody really knew if he was going to join A&M or if he was going to join Charlie and the Longhorns. A huge, huge pickup to really shore up that secondary. And when you think about it, with Deshaun Elliott, now Brandon Jones, you have guys like P.J. Locke, Dylan Haynes, and those young corners, man, the secondary is scary. A tremendous day for Texas.
Absolutely. Holden Hill, Chris Boyd coming back. Those guys are flexible as well. Texas ended up anywhere from 11th to 13th, depending on, or as high as 8, depending on which ranking you look at. We're also joined in studio today by our very own Mark Skol Jr. and Jake Lapin. Guys, how we doing? And I want to focus a little bit on the guys Charlie was able to ink today and what really sticks out to you about the 2016 signing class.
Yeah, absolutely, Reese. Thanks for having us, by the way. And I don't know about you, Mark, but it's been a great day here at the 40 Acres, at least for me anyway. Incredible class that Charlie was able to pull together on the last day. Down in the rankings in the 30s and 40s a few weeks ago, and then just last minute on signing day, locks in 7 key guys. They had 10 total 4-star recruits, 9 of them in the past 48 hours. So to me, being able to come back at the last minute and crack the top 10, incredible job by Charlie Strong.
Oh, it was a great signing day. Really loved what Charlie did. His recruiting strategy was kind of questioned early on, telling his commits not to commit right away so that opposing schools wouldn't go after them and attack those recruits. That's what he said at his press conference today. But it looked like it paid off. He jumped up from, like Jake said, outside the 30s into the top 10, top 15 range. It's just an incredible jump for Texas. And it really, looking at all these online boards that I have been doing with Harry, hornsdigest.com, it's incredible what Texas has done. Kind of expected, but this is the University of Texas. They are expected to have big classes year in, year out, whether they're 5-7 or 12-0. But really just an impressive class all around. I think they addressed needs that they really needed to fix, that they lost Hassan Ridgeway in the offseason, and they were able to bulk up the defensive line. So I really think this was a great class, not just because they're a top 10, top 15 class, but because they were able to fill some needs that they desperately needed filled.
Certainly, Texas jumping somewhere between 20 and 23 spots since about 10:30 last night. Today at Charlie Strong's afternoon press conference, he spoke in general about his recruiting class of 2016. And we'll hear from Charlie a little bit later on in the show. But guys, I want to talk a little bit about who else is the face of this class. Kind of like Malik Jefferson was kind of the face last year of kind of pulling guys together into one class, kind of the most talented player. And I wanted to get your perspective, Harry, on who really is the face of this class, because I feel like there's so many different talented guys that we really don't know who's that guy yet, and maybe we'll find out heading into next fall.
Yeah, there really are. And I think the main thing about this class, and this is what Charlie wants to do here at the University of Texas, is recruit in the trenches. That's huge. And you look at this defensive line, he said today that he would take 20 big guys if he could, rather than and 5 skill players to go along with it. So that's huge. The defensive line is massive. You look at all the defensive tackles that he landed today, probably most notably Jordan Elliott and Chris Daniels. Those 2 guys are tremendous. And then the offensive line, which has been committed for a while, they're terrific. So the trenches, huge for Charlie Strong.
Absolutely, especially as Mark mentioned what they lost. We are now ready to hear from Charlie Strong from his Wednesday presser this afternoon.
And today was a big step forward for our program. And we needed to have a good day today, and that's why I kept saying, during the whole process, listen, it's going to take care of itself. We're just going to continue to recruit. And once the season over, we could really just go recruit and just go full steam ahead. And like I said, our coaches, they went about it where, I told them, guys, it's 4th and 1. It's 4th and 1. We got to get these guys here. And the drama today, it didn't bother. I kind of liked it because I think we had everybody's attention, and that's what I wanted. I wanted everyone's attention on our program, and that's what we got today.
Certainly a much more pleasant signing day press conference than maybe some of the Monday ones he had earlier in the season.
For sure.
As we well know. Mark and Jake, I want to bring you guys back in here and get your perspective on who's the face of this class. And is that something we're going to maybe find out as this class grows into their sophomore or even junior years?
Well, Reese, I've got a surprising answer for you, and that is Reggie Hemphill Maps, wide receiver out of Manville. Certainly not the most talented or hyped-up recruit of this class, but he has been committed to the University of Texas since 2013, the Mac Brown era. Yes, that's right. And then Coach Strong reevaluated and offered him again in 2014. He's been committed to going to Texas since his sophomore year, and I'm looking forward to his added depth at the wide receiver position as well as his just overall enthusiasm for the university.
Well, for me, I believe the clear face of this franchise is definitely going to be Jeffrey McCulloch, the outside linebacker, 26 overall in the ESPN Top 300. When you look at Charlie Strong, you think of a Charlie Strong team, it's always going to be a defensively sound team. And last year, not really a great defense, but we bring in Malik Jefferson last year. He had a pretty good freshman year. Now you're going to have Jeffrey McCulloch. That defense is going to be legit. It's going to be scary. Those 2 are going to be monsters on the outside. And then you have guys like Fowler. You have guys like Chris Daniels. You have guys like Jordan Elliott. And then you add Brandon Jones in the safety, at safety. But I think the key to this draft is it's going to be the linebacker, Jeffrey McCulloch. I definitely think he is the biggest face of this class.
Some people are already saying this may be the most talent Texas has ever had in terms of freshmen and sophomores going into next season at the linebacker position, which really seems to be incredible when you think about Texas defensively and guys who are playing on Sundays. Now, for me, the face is still Shane Buechele. I think a guy that maybe could come in and start day one at perhaps the most important position.
He's a gunslinger.
On the field, everybody says he wants to be that guy. He likes being that guy. So maybe that's my face going into next year. We'll certainly see. We'll take a quick break. Coming up on our signing day special, more from Coach Strong, and we look at the biggest loss and biggest surprise from the 2016 class. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to our College Press Box Signing Day special. Another excellent fun day on the 40 acres. Watching Charlie Strong, the closer, close out what has been called anywhere from the number 8 class in the country to the number 13 class. Reese Miller, Harry Hoffman here with you, Harry. I want to get into the negative side here. There's not many negatives to speak of in terms of the way this class closed, but I do want to address perhaps the biggest loss in this class. Texas did miss out on some couple guys that they would have certainly liked to have, and get your perspective on what's the biggest guy they missed out on.
Yeah, that's a great question because they didn't really miss on that many guys.
Especially today.
So I would say one thing, like I mentioned before, Charlie Strong really focuses on the trenches and that defensive line. And one guy that they really liked was Stephon Taylor, defensive tackle. And when you're going after all of these defensive tackles, eventually if 4 or 5 say that they're in, one guy, might be worried about playing time. And so Stephon Taylor was a guy who late decided to take an official visit to South Carolina, and that's where he ended up going. So it is what it is. Charlie got almost everyone on the board, so I think he'll accept this defeat this time around. But I'll go with Stephon Taylor, although, like I said, not too many losses in this class.
Definitely not too many losses than Stephon Taylor, a guy who I don't think really many thought was coming to Texas, at least on today. My guy personally is Patrick Hudson.
Okay.
I thought Texas definitely made a late push. He was always a Baylor lean, but got to love having those young offensive linemen to add to Patrick Vahe and to add to Connor Williams, who was outstanding from the left tackle. I think he would have been a big get for Charlie Strong in Texas. But again, it's really hard to criticize this class. Mark and Jake, I'm going to bring you guys back in here. What's the biggest loss today? We've got to be just a little bit negative here. Who did Texas miss out on that they're going to regret?
Reese, great minds think alike, because I also think Hudson was the biggest loss on today. And like Harry said, not too many swings and misses for Charlie Strong and his staff today. But offensive line, clearly the biggest issue for this Texas team, the biggest area of need. You have a couple guys leaving, and Flowers, plus Williams and Vahe, two promising freshmen, but some holes to fill nonetheless. I think Hudson would have been a huge add, the #1 guard in the nation. Stuck with Baylor. He's been committed to them for the past couple of years, so not a huge surprise, but it would have been nice. And there are a few other guys, Gene DeLance, some other offensive linemen coming to aid this team, but Hudson would have been a great steal from a rival Big 12 team in Baylor.
Reese, I really don't like you bursting my bubble because I was feeling really good about this class. But I got to go. The biggest losses has to be linebacker Dontavius Jackson, who went to Florida State. Talked earlier about how this defense was headed in the right direction. And this defense would have been a three-headed monster with McCulloch, Jefferson, and Jackson. It would have been crazy. But the 3 Js, I don't know if there's any monomers for that, but they would have been really good. He was definitely a loss there. I feel like he was had the most pro potential out of all of those guys who they could have got, but I definitely feel like the biggest loss is Dontavius Jackson, because he would have started right away. He would have been an impact right when he stepped on the field. So I definitely think Dontavius Jackson has to be the biggest loss for Texas. Although, great day for Texas overall.
Overall, absolutely. Don't worry, Mark. We'll get that bubble blown right back up here in just a second. Harry, maybe throw in Irv Smith there, a tight end that Texas may have wanted, but certainly was never a hard Texas lean, and so it's hard to feel like Texas certainly missed out. All right, Mark, I'm going to go right back to you here, and your biggest surprise that you didn't think Texas was going to get a chance at, but they ended up bringing home and inking this afternoon.
Well, it's not someone they inked this afternoon per se, but someone they inked yesterday. Running back Kyle Porter from Katy High School. I think that's definitely the biggest surprise. Someone who really wasn't on Texas's radar, was a dark horse in the competition for Porter, was between TCU and Arkansas. But he's someone, it was a class that Texas was not supposed to get a running back. They already had Donta Foreman on campus, Chris Warren. But now to add someone like Kyle Porter into that backfield, he might not get playing time his freshman year, but maybe we'll get that red shirt and he'll be playing a lot down the line when guys like Foreman and Warren go to the draft or go graduate. But I definitely think Porter's definitely the surprise for this class.
Certainly a great pickup. Crowded backfield next year, but a great pickup nonetheless. For me, the big surprise was Marcel Southall, defensive tackle, and he really never gave a big indication of where he was going. I thought he'd end up going to Oklahoma. It seemed like he was leaning that way, but here we go. Starting the day bright and early, Marcel got the ball rolling, first domino to fall on actual signing day. Signed with Texas bright and early, and led to a great day after that. We're glad to have him, absolutely.
Really got some momentum going this morning leading into, I believe, your pick for most surprising, which is?
For sure. Eric Fowler, a guy who was committed to LSU and Les Miles for a long time, and he actually never decommitted from them. He has been an LSU commit this entire time, and he flipped this morning when he picked up that Texas hat. A huge get for Texas and Charlie Strong, a guy who can play inside linebacker or could move to that Fox defensive end position. The guy can do it all. He showed that in the Army, under our Army All-American game. A bunch of tongue twisters out here.
Absolutely.
But he's tremendous. Pretty big surprise. Charlie didn't know until he picked up that hat. So Good for them.
And certainly a huge get because he does play high school ball right down the road. At Maynard High School, Charlie Strong was able to speak about Eric Fowler, his linebacker, coming in next season this afternoon. Let's hear from him.
The one that shocked everyone today was the Fowler. And then, was committed to LSU. And the thing with Eric is a guy that played a box position, but a guy can play around. He's a guy we can move around. He can play the outside, he can play inside, get his hand down, go rush. But really excited about getting Big E.
Maybe a guy that I'm most surprised about. Certainly Eric Fowler was a huge surprise, but my guy might be Brandon Jones. I think a safety that maybe can come in and play right away and what's already turning into a young, talented secondary there for Texas. But I think Brandon Jones, and it's a huge get to sort of steal away from the school out east and bring him to Austin. Charlie Strong was also able to talk about his defensive back that will be on campus in the fall, Brandon Jones. And once again, we will hear from Charlie Strong about Brandon Jones a little bit later on, Harry, but certainly those guys all stick out. Any other big surprises? I feel like today was kind of a day full of maybe guys that you didn't think they were going to get, but they ended up pulling out the rabbit out of the hat late.
Yeah.
Maybe even Chris Daniels.
Oh, Chris Daniels is big again, an Oklahoma commit. And the funny story about that one is Texas offered him the night before he committed to Oklahoma. And Charlie Strong told him on the phone, I know you're going to commit to OU tomorrow, but we're gonna recruit you until the end, and we're going to flip you, and you're not going to be able to say no to me. I mean, that is confidence from a head coach, and that shows how good Charlie Strong is of a recruiter.
Certainly a huge get for Charlie Strong. We are now ready to hear from Charlie Strong talking about his safety coming into next year's class.
And then the big take was a BJ today. You look at him coming out of NAC. It was important for us to get into East Texas and to go into East Texas and go get us one. And this is really an unbelievable player for us.
That's Charlie Strong coming in and talking about Brandon Jones, one of his safeties, a huge get for Charlie Strong. 5-star, maybe the #1 recruit, according to several systems. Either he or Eric Fowler, at least the most highly rated in a class that is anywhere from number 8 to number 13. Time for another break. When we come back, we're going to look ahead to the future and guys that could even make an impact next season. We'll tell you all about it. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back into College Press Box Signing Day Special. What a wonderful day it was for Charlie Strong and company. We've told you all about Charlie Strong's upcoming class of 2016 that's been ranked right around 10th in the nation overall with a couple of 5-star recruits. Reese Miller, Harry Hoffman joining me at the desk. We've got Mark Skol, Jake Lapin giving us hot opinions across the studio. And Harry, I want to get into really quick, maybe the guy you're looking most forward to. We've sort of addressed the losses and looked overall at our overarching view of the class, but maybe just guy you're most pumped up to see come fall.
Definitely. I think two guys who were actually not that highly rated, Malcolm Roach and Andrew Fitzgerald at the defensive end position. I think
it's under the radar pick.
These guys are wildly underrated, and they can ball. Charlie today said Andrew Fitzgerald was one of his dark horses of the class, and Malcolm Roach is a big dude who can really get to the quarterback, and that's what Texas needs. They need a better pass rush. It hasn't been what it needs to be to get after the quarterbacks of the Big 12. And so I'm looking at those two guys to come in and make an impact for the next 4 years.
And especially with guys that have left Texas the past couple of years, and Texas got to replenish, and they seem to have done that. Charlie Strong, once again, was able to address sort of that pass rush coming back in and trying to replenish that with guys like Andrew Fitzgerald.
With Fitzgerald, defensive end, 6'4", 255. I say this guy right here will be the dark horse of this class. And the reason why I say that, if you want to talk about just a guy that goes hard all the time. He has one speed, and he's going to go hard.
Harry, an underrated guy that I think I'm pumped up to see is Denzel Okafor, an offensive guard from Louisville that was one of the Texas's first guys. Who was a low 3-star. He's risen way up in recruiting rankings to a 4-star by some systems, and obviously you got to be pumped up about Eric Fowler. But let's get Mark and Jake in here. Guys, who are you most excited and pumped up to see in spring ball and especially come fall out there on the football field?
Well, I'll tell you what I'm pumped up to see, and that is the return of DBU. Back in the day, Texas is known for having great defensive backs, and now it could be happening again. A lot of young freshmen this past year, Deshaun Elliott, Devontae Davis, Holton Hill. Now you add Brandon Jones. I know we've heard his name a lot today, but this guy is the real deal, #1 safety in the nation. He is going to kill it. He's going to start the second he walks on this campus and every day thereafter that. I'm sick of seeing Dylan Haynes, Jason Hall, poor coverage, blown assignments. Brandon Jones, get to know him because you're going to see him on the first day of the season.
You know what, Jake? I really like what you're saying. I actually agree with you. I definitely think it's Brandon Jones just because he's a guy who can make an impact right away. You said that the safety position has definitely struggled. Jason Hall, Dylan Haynes, just really struggling in the secondary, making tackles in the open field. I think Brandon Jones could make that, could start right away, like you said, as soon as he gets on campus. He hasn't even stepped foot on campus. He might be the best safety this team has right now. I definitely think Brandon Jones is by far the best secondary player they have on the roster, and I think he'll make an impact right away. Has that pro potential, like I said earlier, and I think he could end up being probably the best player in this class.
Certainly a great chance to, guys. We'll talk about maybe somebody a little bit under the radar that may have sneaked under as a 3 or 4 star guy, but we know Charlie Strong has a sort of a natural talent at turning these 3 and 4 star guys into guys who are going into the NFL draft. Mark, I'll start with you, and maybe an underrated guy that we need to watch out for coming into next season and a few years here down the road.
Ooh, an underrated guy, I probably would have to say, I know he's already on campus, but Zach Shackelford. I really liked what I saw from his tape. I know highlight films only show the best of what a player can do, but when I was watching him, it's just he was pancaking defenders left and right. I know he's only a 3-star, but he's an underrated guy who I think can make an impact right away. Taylor Doyle just graduated in this fall, and Shackelford might be able to replace him right away at the center position. So maybe not, maybe he does, but I definitely think Shackelford might be a very exciting player to watch down the road.
Well, I'll give you someone whose name we haven't heard yet today, and that's wide receiver Colin Johnson. This guy has all the tools to be a solid wide receiver in this Texas offense as long as we can find someone to throw it to him. But the wide receiver depth, not great for Texas. He'll be able to step in soon enough and really provide an impact.
Harry, we'll go to you with maybe an underrated guy that's off the radar. I'm thinking we're on the same wavelength here with a certain wide receiver.
I mean, I really like Davion Curtis out of Temple, Texas, a guy who can come in and maybe work for that slot position. Because you have 2 big guys on the outside now with Colin Johnson and John Burt. And, you know, Reggie and Davion Curtis and Ryan Newsome, all those guys can compete for that slot position and really work this crazy offense that's coming to town, Sterling Gilbert and company. So I like him, really under the radar. People completely forgot. I think he could be a name to watch out.
I think that especially with Texas wide receivers, there's not really one guy. Of course, they haven't had many successful quarterbacks throwing them the rock, but certainly this wide receiver position seems to be wide open, and wide receiver certainly seems to be a place where they could step in right away. Guys, before we go, we got to talk a couple things. We're going to give out grades in a minute, but I got to talk about one animal that lives in the ocean that will be living on the 40 acres here next season, and that's the shark. Jeffrey McCulloch, one of the guys that I don't think anyone expected to commit to Texas before maybe the last couple of weeks. And this is a guy, another one that can step on and I think start day one.
He's terrific for sure, that outside linebacker position. And he's a really good kid. And him and Malik are going to gel if Malik does, in fact, stay at the linebacker position. And you add guys like Anthony Wheeler and Brecken Hager, and this linebacker core is set for the next 2 or 3 years. And that's exciting. But it's always good to have a guy who's nicknamed the Shark.
That's a pretty
campus.
solid nickname.
That's terrific.
Very solid. Don't forget Edwin Freeman, a guy coming back. But in terms of the Shark, Charlie Strong was able to talk about many of his recruits this afternoon, but certainly one of the most important and vital to this class was the Shark himself. And here's Charlie Strong discussing Jeffrey McCulloch.
And then get McCullough today was really big. You talk about a very athletic linebacker guy that can run downhill, that can hold a point for you, and can really do an outstanding job. Cuffy he's a corner. He can play safety. He can play nickel. He can do a lot of different things for us.
There's Charlie talking about really one of the guys that I'm definitely most excited. I think everybody should be excited to see of what's going to be an extremely nasty group of linebackers, and maybe a couple guys that have a chance to play defensive end as well.
Yep.
I want to give out some final grades here. I'm going to start with Jake. Maybe just a final grade and an overarching feeling of how this class turned out with the late push that ended up right around the 10-11 range for Texas.
Yeah, Reese, no complaints here. I'm all smiles. I'm giving him an A, perfect 4.0. Give Charlie Strong a lot of credit for sticking with it with some of these recruits till the final day. Some of these guys committed out of state, got them to stay home, find that sense of Longhorn pride. Also, really talking to the parents, winning them over. That's an underrated aspect of recruiting. Well done, Charlie Strong.
Jake, I really wish you were my professor, because then I'd have a perfect GPA. But I have to go with, I had A originally earlier, but I'm going to go with A- just because they haven't been on the field yet, so we don't know what they can do. But overall, from the projections, I think it's going to be an A-.
Mark, I'm extremely glad you're not my professor. Are you kidding? He makes a late push up 22 spots. He basically was failing at grade and ended up with an A for me. An A for me. What say you?
I give him an E for everybody. Weekend everybody. It's been trending all week long. And as I've been saying since the fall, get on board because it's coming. A+ for this class.
A+ for this class, and certainly a solid lean towards next year's class and what could be an excellent class already with some Texas leans.
Yep, definitely. Looking at a top 5 class, and hey, if they have a winning season, Charlie Strong, man, maybe they could reel in a number 1 and beat out Saban because they're running 6 years straight.
Boy, that'll be tough, but it will certainly be fun to watch. We'll always have all your coverage here on College Press Box every Monday night at 9:30. Don't forget about our sister debate show, College Crossfire. That's every Wednesday night at 9. A special thanks to Jake Lapin, to Mark Skol, my co-analyst and co-host, Harry Hoffman, who's right back on the message boards. He'll have all the insight. We need a special thanks to everybody in Master Control and Studio, and a special thanks to each and every one of you for spending your signing day with us. Until next time, I'm Reese Miller. Have an outstanding night from the 40 Acres.